All right. Now, these tools that I'm going to talk about right now, the first one is pretty self-explanatory, and then I'm going to work with one of the more difficult but accurate tools. So we're going to talk about the line tool and then the pen tool. Let's start with the line tool. Line tool is here. It's a line segment tool. It's pretty self-explanatory. I can make lines. When you make these lines, you don't want to just click because that's what's going to come up. You know, it's going to talk about the length and the angle. You don't want to do it that way. It's kind of hard, more technical. So I'm hit cancel. What you want to do, but you can click and drag and you can make straight lines. And it basically gives you 2 points on each side of that line. Okay. I can change the color of that line. There is no fill because it's just a line. I can make that line red and I can increase the stroke of that line. I can come here where it says uniform and I can make it, thin on the sides, thick in the middle. Okay. So I can change that on the tool. I can make, and they have some down here. There's one that these are ways to taper the lines. Okay. And I can increase the stroke on those lines. And that way when I make the line, it's there, so I can manipulate it. If I want the stroke to be just a uniform, even line, I can increase the stroke of that line, and then I can just make these thicker strokes. All right, so that's how that works. It's the line tool. Now, the one thing about the line tool is if I'm trying to make a shape, let me get rid of all this. If I'm trying to make a shape and I want to use the line tool, cancel. Let's say I want to make a unique shape. So I'm kind of connecting these lines around. And then I look at this shape and I'm like, okay, there it is. I want to fill a color into this. Well, it doesn't really work that way because when you make a shape like this using just the lines, it recognizes each line as a shape, not the whole thing as a shape. So it's like, okay, well, how do I do that? How do I make a shape and just fill it in and be able to add a color? See, I can't go here and then add a color. Nothing happens, right? So this is what you want to do instead. You want to use what's called the pen tool. So I'm going to get rid of this. And I'm going to go to the pen tool. The pen tool is a very useful tool because it allows you to make perfectly straight lines. But instead of making line segments separately, you can make them and connect them to each other. So if I want to make a shape using straight lines, I basically click first and it starts my first point. When I click the second time, it makes a line to that point. And I can just go around creating whatever shape I want to create. And when I finish at the end where I began, and it makes a full shape. Then now with the black arrow tool, I can actually click on it and add color. Okay, the pen tool allows me to do that. All right. Now the difference between that is, let me take this fill away. Let's say I have this outside shape, but I want to add a line in here. If I take the pen tool and I add a line here, and that's the only line I want, and I want to go over here and I want to add a new line, maybe one coming across here, I can't click here because it's going to automatically connect it. So that's where the advantage of saying, okay, I just want to add a line segment. So I'm just going to take a line segment and add it in here. All right, that's where that comes in. Okay. So if I just want to connect one whole thing and give it a color, now this line segment here and this line segment here are not shapes. All right, they're just lines. So I can't add a color to that, but I can select this and add a color there, and the red lines will still be there. So I can't go in and say, okay, I want to make this part, this little area here, a different color than this one. Not yet. Okay, and we'll talk about color and all that in just a moment. All right, but that's how you create your lines, pen tool versus the line tool. Okay, and this is just with straight lines. The pen tool also allows you to make accurate curves. So if I want to, let's make a square really quickly. Make just a, I'm using a pen tool to make a rectangular shape. All right, not perfect, but if I want to make it perfect, I could use rectangular tool. Here's my pen tool, made a rectangle. With my black arrow tool, I can select this and I can move it around. We already know that from previous video. But I can use my white arrow and I can make this click here. I can make it a curve and I can go through all that. See these little handles, remember? All right. Now, the pen tool allows me to do that as I'm making my object. So I'm going to show you that. So I can click that first spot. Let's say instead of making a regular square or rectangle, I want the top to be curved and then everything else straight. So this time, instead of just clicking and making a straight line, I'm going to click and hold, and when I drag, there's my handles, and I'm creating that curve. Okay? And remember, in the other video, I showed you that this handle controls the top curve. This handle controls the bottom curve. So I don't want that handle there. To eliminate that handle before I even make the line, I simply go in and click that middle section. Now I can click and make a straight line here, straight line here, straight line here. And there's like a rectangle with a curve at the top. And guess what? That handle's still there. So if I go to my white arrow, I can manipulate that curve and make it steeper. I can make it more shallow. I can do all this stuff to it, okay? I can still manipulate that. I can come in here and I can make this seem to be more straight. So I can do all that. All right, just working with just that corner, okay? I can work with just this side. If I want to just move that side, the white arrow allows me to do all of this manipulation of this object, okay? If I want to get really detailed with my pen tool and I want to make all curves, remember, you click to make your first point. You click and drag until you like your curve. You click the middle. That's the anchor. Then you click and drag when you want to make a curve. All right, so if I look here, I have an anchor in the middle. I have a handle here, a handle here. I always want to click my anchor so I can add a new curve. What happens if I don't click the anchor? I'm going to show you. If I continue the path of this curve, see how it kind of curves around this way? If I was like making a circle, it would kind of continue going that way. It just kind of continues, all right? But what happens if I don't take that away and I want to go back this way? I want to stop and I want to curve up this way. If I go there, see how it kind of bends down? It doesn't go exactly where I want it to go. It kind of gives it its own little bend because that anchor was still there controlling that curve. So if I click this anchor, then it allows me to control that curve more. So see, I can control the curve. The other way, I can't really control the curve as much. See how it gives me a double curve in there? It's going to get a little messy and give me like this little super curve that I really don't want. Like I can't make it just go straight up. It kind of bends down. All right, so when you're creating this, to go back but stay in my pen tool, I'm just hitting Command Z, and it takes away that last step I did. So if I want to eliminate that, I can Command Z and I can get that back. All right, that allows me to do this. Versus if I didn't get rid of this, I can't do that. I can't make it that way. It's a little bit more out of control. Okay, so that's the pen tool and the line segment tool.